Salutations everyone! Welcome back to another Total Warhammer 3 guide. This one on 10 tips to play Bretonnia better. Tip 1. It is all about the cavalry here. Bretonnia has the deepest and arguably the strongest cavalry roster in the game. Your peasant units are there to supplement your cavalry units, not vice versa. Basically, if you're struggling to beat armies in the early or even mid game, it's probably because you don't have enough cavalry. Special note here, your mounted yeomen are considered peasant units, and they kind of suck. Tip 2. Avoid charging into spears. Use your trebuchets instead. So, weakness of cavalry units? Spear units. This does not mean you cannot charge into spears, but you should avoid charging spears as much as possible. Bretonnia actually has decent artillery. They only have 2, really. The field trebuchets and the blessed field trebuchets, which have a decent range, good ammunition, and should be used to break up spear formations before you charge with cav, not vice versa. Tip 3. Do your vows. You'll get immortal lords and heroes out of them. Bretonnia, right up there with the Tomb Kings, has the most easy access to immortal lords and heroes. Basically, you have to complete the 3 vows. At the end, they will become wounded instead of killed in battle, which basically makes them immortal. That applies all the way to your damsels, all the way through your knights and lords and stuff. It's worth doing. Tons of lords and heroes that are immortal means you can throw them into battle, lose their full army, but you don't lose the experience on your lords. Plus, immortal heroes are just really, really strong. Tip 4. Pick your industry. This means if you use farms, you're going to have more money. If you use industry, you'll have more peasants to be used in your armies. This is very important for Bretonnia because of your rather annoying peasant economy mechanic. Late game, your army should be mostly cav, but early on, you have to make a choice between going for your farms, which uses peasants to generate lots more money, or using your industry, which generates less money, but means you don't have to interact with the peasant economy. Peasant economy, of course, being if you go over your peasant limits, you lose income. So pick which one you're going to go for. And my advice is on settlements that are likely to be under siege, go with industry, because the industry applies bonuses towards ammunition and reduced attrition while under siege. Tip 5. Bretonnia is a late game faction. Many people who play Bretonnia seem to think that you should be able to rampage across the map early on. That is not the case. Bretonnia relies on building tall, as in building up, building large settlements, getting to their level 3 where they can start to get really good cavalry. Then they expand. So don't expect to be expanding much in the first 20-30 turns unless you're like Rapont and you're fighting in the desert and you have early access to high cav. Most of the Bretonnian lords have to build up before they expand, but once you expand really fast because of the lack of supply line penalties. It's amazing. So pace yourself, you're right up there with the Tomb Kings in terms of slow starts. Tip 6. Use hammer and anvil tactics. So Bretonnia relies on using its cav for powerful charges, but it really helps if you have a solid front line to tie up the enemies so that your cav can do flanks and maneuvers. This is where you use hammer and anvil. Your cavalry is your hammer, your peasants are your anvil. The peasants hold the line, as well as peasants can, while your cavalry flanks and actually kills off the dangerous units. Also, peasants guard your trebuchets and archers, which you should use. So, peasants, front line, cavalry, flanking, maneuvers, smash them into your peasants. If you attack an enemy from behind, you're more likely to rout it and do more damage. Tip 7. Minor settlements for Bretonnia are imminently expendable. You can get rid of them whenever you want, basically. Major settlements, on the other hand, you need to defend as hard as you can. So use garrison buildings in your major settlements. So what I mean is your minor settlements only can get up to level 3, which means you're barely going to get good cavalry. They're much better used to generate money from them. And what that means is build farms or build your industry. Don't worry about putting garrison buildings in your minor settlements. However, a major settlement, like the capital of Corone here, is super precious for you, even over other factions, because you rely on highly developed settlements generating lots of money to finance your cavalry. This means use your garrison buildings. They're not amazing because they mainly only provide peasants, but they do provide a cav unit, and more importantly, they reduce attrition under siege, meaning you have longer for your knights to come save your settlements that are being sieged down. Also, and it does bear a special note, you may want to throw a Watcher's Guild or something in a major settlement, especially in multiplayer, to make sure that no one sticks Skaven cities under your big settlements and then blows them up. Plus, Bretonnia has problems with control, and this helps. But really, major settlements, stick your garrisons in them. It makes a world of difference. Tip 8, charge and repeat. So this is a slightly more advanced one, and it's the only one I'm not going to show here. Your cavalry gets a huge charge bonus. The charge bonus only lasts a certain amount of seconds in melee combat. This means to maximize your cavalry damage, you want to charge in, wait till the bonus fades or starts to fade, pull them out, get them far enough away they can do another charge in to maximize their amount of damage. This combos nicely with the hammer and anvil tactic that I mentioned earlier, where you can use the peasants to tie down the enemies while your cavalry does do these charge and repeat for maximum damage. It makes a world of difference in Bretonnia's fights on the battle. Slightly harder in siege battles, which is why Bretonnia does better in field rather than siege battles. Tip 9. Use armories to buff all armies' armor. So this is a slightly hidden one for people who don't really know how to play Bretonnia in depth. Your level 2 armories, which requires major settlements, you can get +2 armor in all armies. You see it? It's right about halfway down that list. This means for every major settlement, you want to stick an armory in it. You have 5 major settlements, that's 10 more armor on all your units. Bretonnia is a heavily armored faction already, but 10% or more, 10 or more armor on all your units is a huge percentage buff to their armor, meaning Bretonnian armies, really late game, their only threat is armor penetration. And arguably, Bretonnia is one of the best factions for a world conquest as a result. That and the lack of supply lines. Tip 10, and this one is a bit of a personal peeve myself, is use ambushes. So yes, if you're Bretonnia and you do an ambush, you lose 2 chivalry per turn. Problem is, ambushes are super strong, especially on Bretonnia, who can get cavalry charges from the woods from both sides and absolutely wreck enemy armies. Use ambushes, please. I can see so many campaigns where people are not using ambushes on them because they're trying to preserve that chivalry. Don't worry too much about 2 per turn. Unless you're sitting around for like 50 turns, it's not going to matter. It really isn't. Use ambushes, use them properly, set them up so that you charge from one side with cav, maybe the other side with infantry and artillery, and you've got it. Your damage and your ability to crush enemies is unmatched in ambushes, pretty much. And that's it. Thank you guys all for watching. This was a quick 10 tips on how to play Bretonnia better. If you have your own 10 tips, stick them on there. Hopefully you enjoyed the ones I have, and hopefully they help you play a very fun faction much better in Total Warhammer 3. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.